5 True Scary College Horror Stories. The Stalker Roommate. Jane was thrilled to start her freshman year at a prestigious university. She moved into her dorm room and met her new roommate, Sarah. At first, Sarah seemed friendly and outgoing, always wanting to hang out and chat. But as the weeks went by, Jane started to notice some odd behavior. Sarah would stare at Jane for hours on end, even when Jane was sleeping. She'd go through Jane's things when she wasn't around, and even started wearing Jane's clothes. When Jane confronted her about it, Sarah just laughed it off, saying she was just borrowing them. But things took a terrifying turn when Jane woke up one night to find Sarah standing over her bed, holding a pair of scissors. Sarah had a crazed look in her eyes and was muttering something about how she and Jane were meant to be together forever. Jane screamed and ran out of the room, and Sarah was eventually arrested and sent for psychiatric evaluation. The Haunted Dorm Room. When Mike moved into his new dorm room, he was excited to have a space all to himself. But he soon realized that he wasn't quite as alone as he thought. Strange things started happening. Objects would move on their own, the lights would flicker, and Mike would hear whispers coming from the empty room next door. At first, Mike tried to brush it off as just his imagination. But one night, he woke up to find a ghostly figure standing at the foot of his bed. The figure was a young woman, dressed in old-fashioned clothing and with a sad expression on her face. Mike tried to scream, but no sound would come out. The next morning, Mike did some research and discovered that a student had died in his dorm room decades ago. She had taken her own life after being jilted by her lover, and her spirit was said to haunt the room, seeking revenge on any man who dared to stay there. The Cursed Fraternity. When Jack pledged to join a fraternity, he was ready for the typical hazing rituals, drinking contests, embarrassing stunts, and sleep deprivation. But he wasn't prepared for the dark secrets that the fraternity was hiding. As Jack went through the initiation process, he started to notice some strange symbols and rituals that the brothers would perform. They would chant in a language that Jack didn't recognize, and he would sometimes catch glimpses of hooded figures lurking in the shadows. One night, during a particularly intense hazing ritual, Jack blacked out. When he woke up, he was lying in a pentagram drawn on the floor, surrounded by candles and strange artifacts. The brothers were standing around him, chanting something in that same eerie language. From that moment on, Jack's life took a terrifying turn. He started having nightmares and hallucinations, and he felt like something was always watching him. He tried to leave the fraternity, but the brothers wouldn't let him. They said he was part of something bigger now, something that he could never escape. The Creepy Professor. When Sarah signed up for Professor Johnson's biology class, she had no idea what she was getting herself into. Professor Johnson was known for being a bit eccentric, but Sarah figured that just meant he was passionate about his subject. But as the semester went on, Sarah started to feel more and more uncomfortable around the professor. He would often stand too close to her, brushing up against her accidentally and making inappropriate comments about her appearance. One day, Sarah went to Professor Johnson's office hours to ask a question about an upcoming exam. When she got there, the door was locked, but she could hear strange noises coming from inside. She knocked on the door, and when the professor opened it, he was disheveled and out of breath. Sarah tried to brush off the incident, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. She started to notice that other female students in the class seemed uncomfortable around the professor too, and there were rumors circulating about his inappropriate behavior. When Sarah finally worked up the courage to report the professor to the university, she discovered that she wasn't the first one to do so. Other students had come forward with similar stories, but the university had swept them under the rug to avoid a scandal. The Midnight Intruder. Emily was up late studying for her finals when she heard a strange noise coming from the common room of her suite. She figured it was just one of her suite mates coming home late, so she ignored it and went back to her books. But a few minutes later, she heard the noise again. This time, it sounded like someone was rummaging through the cabinets in the kitchenette. Emily got up to investigate, assuming that her suite mate was just looking for a late-night snack. When Emily walked into the common room, she froze in terror. There was a man standing in the kitchenette, dressed all in black and wearing a ski mask. He was holding a knife and had a backpack slung over his shoulder. Emily screamed and ran back into her room, locking the door behind her. She called campus security, but by the time they arrived, the intruder was gone. He had broken in through a window and had stolen valuables from several of the suites in the building. From that night on, Emily never felt safe in her own dorm room. She would lie awake at night, listening for any sound that might indicate that the intruder had returned. She started sleeping with a can of pepper spray under her pillow, just in case. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content.